We're in Luke chapter 10. All right. It says this in verse 25. One day, an expert in religious law. So at that time, it would be like, I don't know, the lead pastor that knows like everything, or the scholar with the PhD that knows everything about religion, stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question. Now, when Jesus walked the earth, the people that were skeptical of him, that were the most skeptical that he was God, were the religious people, believe it or not. Not all of them, but most of them. So one of the religious law leaders stood up to test Jesus by asking them this question: "Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus replied, "What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it?" This man answered, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind." So the first answer I have to who do we serve is written right here in this text, and it's serve God. Who do I serve? Number one, serve God. That is the first and greatest commandment that we read in the passages of the Bible. Serve God. And then the text continues in Luke chapter 10 to say, "And love your neighbor as yourself." Now, Jesus, I picture him, right? He knew that this religious teacher, this religious law leader was going to say this. And I just can picture Jesus like anticipating him getting to the end of the sentence to be like, okay, I know what's coming. And I'm ready for it. So he says, love your neighbor as yourself. And then Jesus immediately exclaims, exactly, like that's right. Jesus told him, do this and you will live. So the second point I want to make, who do we serve? We serve God, number one. Number two, serve your neighbor. Serve your neighbor. Good answer, Jesus says. He didn't say that, but that's what I picture. Now, moving along in the text, it says, the man wanted to justify his actions. So he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? See, much like culture today, back then, there was a lot of separation between different groups of people. And a lot of times you saw these lawyers, these religious leaders, really talking the talk and walking the walk on the outside, but they thought they were better than other people, so they distanced themselves from people that didn't check the religious boxes they did. So this guy is trying to trap Jesus and basically say, well, okay, it's love your neighbor as yourself, but I don't have to love everybody, right? Jesus is like, okay. So Jesus goes into a story to really show this man, here's what I mean by love your neighbor as yourself. Because some of y'all are sitting here and you're like, how does this apply to me? If I'm supposed to serve God, I know who that is, but who's my neighbor? How do I serve my neighbor? Well, listen to this story. Some of you are familiar with it. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho. And again, a Jewish man in that day was somebody that was thought to be part of the community of God because of being Jewish. And so the religious leaders are like, oh, a Jewish man's walking alongside the road, one of us. He's in because he's Jewish. And he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along. Now, a Jewish man is in need. A priest came along. That makes sense. But when he saw the man was lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. Interesting. A temple assistant, again, another person in the church that sees a Jewish man in need. Seems like he would help. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then it says, a despised Samaritan came along. Now, Samaritans and Jews notoriously were separate. Jews looked at Samaritans and said they're second class, they don't deserve to be in the church, they don't follow all the rules and laws that we do. So really, if a Samaritan was next to a Jew, they would not be kind or helping each other out. But Jesus says this about the Samaritan. It said the Samaritan came along, and when he saw the Jewish man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. It's like a first aid kit back then. Then he put the man on his own donkey, or in his SUV, and took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here." Now, Jesus finishes this story, and he says to this guy, this religious man, he says, "Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man attacked by the bandits?" The man, I can just see the man just being like, "All right, Jesus, you got me there." And he responds by saying, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus said, "Yes, now go and do the same." So what Jesus was saying, when we have this command to serve our neighbor, it applies to this principle. Everyone is our neighbor. Every person that we come in contact with, no matter what they look like, how they talk, how old they are, if we have beef with them or not, if our families have beef with them or not, everyone is our neighbor. And it's funny that in Jesus' story, he uses this differentiation between a Samaritan man who helps out a Jewish man. Because let me tell you what, here's the irony of it. When the priest walked by the Jewish man, they would have been in good graces, and yet he said, "I don't have time for him." When the temple assistant walks by this Jewish man, they would have been friends probably. "I don't have time." The Samaritan sees a Jewish man, and he knows full well, that Jewish man hates me. That Jewish man literally won't even look me in the eye. That Jewish man steps far away when I'm coming into the town. That Jewish man doesn't let me into the inner courts of the temple. The Jewish man lying on the ground there that just got beaten up does not want to be associated with me. And yet, this Samaritan man is the only one in this story that looks at that man, is moved with compassion, and says, "You know what? It doesn't matter how they've treated me or who this is. This person is in need, and I'm going to step up to the plate, and I'm going to take care of them." And that's what Jesus is communicating in this text. So what does that mean for us? That means for us that when we see someone as Christ followers that we're passing by that's in need, yeah, there might be a laundry list of offense, of issues, of preconceived thoughts about that person. But our command from Jesus, our only one, isn't to be like, somebody else will do it. But you don't know who that is. But they said, they talk trash about me. Oh, I don't really like them. Oh, I don't have enough money. Our one commandment is to serve every neighbor, everyone. And I think it can be hard. Maybe you're in this room, you're like, "Man, I feel like I'm that man on the side of the road where everybody keeps passing me by." Or maybe you're like, "You know what? I feel like I'm the person that literally just walks by." Well, I just want you to know you're not alone in this, because this was happening back then. Back in this day, you had this clash between people that felt like they were being just simply passed by without being helped when they were in need. And then you had people that felt like, you know what? I'm just too good to help them out right now. I don't have the time. I don't have the space. And I think one of the things that is good, but can almost be a distraction from truly serving our neighbor sometimes, is to think that the things that we do in church can be a substitute for loving and serving the people around us. You're like, Pastor Meredith, what do you mean by that? Well, I want to read you this last story in the Bible, because I want to show you that if you're sitting in this room tonight and you've come and you've been in church a long time, or you're new to this place and you're just like, I don't know that much about this Jesus, but I know that I need help in life. I want to really show you the heart of what Jesus is saying about how and who to serve and what this actually practically looks like. So if you turn with me to Matthew chapter 25, we're going to be reading in verse 21. Matthew chapter 25, verse 31. And again, Jesus has an audience around him. He has his disciples. He has the religious leaders. And then he has people that are outcasts. And he's talking to all these people. And he tells a story in Matthew chapter 25. And I want to read it to you. It says this. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit upon his glorious throne. This is talking about when Jesus returns again. All the nations will be gathered in his presence, and he will separate the people as a shepherd separates sheep from goats. So he's using this analogy of people as sheep and goats. He will place the sheep at his right hand and the goats at his left. Then the king will say to those on the right, to the sheep, to the sheep people, come, you are blessed by my Father. Inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. Then the ones on the left, I know I said naked. The ones on the left, the righteous people, the religious people that Jesus is addressing as his audience when he's telling this story, it says this, then these righteous ones will reply, the sheep on the right will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? And Jesus the King will say, I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me. And then Jesus goes on in this text to say, so first Jesus addresses the righteous ones, the ones who are truly living out the gospel and serving and loving people. And then he turns to the left and addresses the hypocrites. And he says, depart from me. Because when I was hungry, you gave me no food. When I was thirsty, you gave me no drink. When I needed some place to stay, you didn't help me out. You didn't clothe me. You didn't visit me while I was sick or in prison. And those people are going to be like, well, we showed up in church. Well, we wore the right clothing. Well, we gave money every week. Well, we participated in fine arts. Well, we didn't cuss, and I know some people that cuss. And Jesus is going to be like, no, when you follow me, serving others looks like not putting on a show at church. It looks like when you're walking throughout your day-to-day life, at school, at home, at your job, on your way to and fro, and you see people that are in need around you, that need love, that need encouragement, that need a ride, that need somebody to sit with them, that need a hug, that you go to them and you put yourself aside and you meet their need. He says that's what serving each other really looks like. That's what the gospel actually looks like. He says, when you truly are followers of me, the reflection of that is that you are putting yourself aside and you are saying, I'm not on this planet to serve my needs, to gain popularity, to look cool, so that I get whatever I want, to gain all the money, to gain all the attention. I am here to give myself away to others. Why? Because Jesus did the same for me when I did nothing to deserve it. Who is my neighbor? It's anybody and everybody we come in contact with. So I want to leave you with some practical things to help you know how to serve and what that really looks like. Some easy notes to jot down. Number 1, serve others every single day. And that might look different for all of you. Each of you have distinct personalities. You have distinct gifts and talents. Some of you are like rolling in the dough and you're like, man, I really just feel like I have the gift of generosity and I want to make sure my friends and family are taken care of. Cool. Some of you are so good at speaking words of encouragement. Some of you give great hugs. Some of you can tell when something's wrong with someone, when they're sad, and you can go up to them and say, how you doing? What's going on? Some of you are really good at practically helping fix things or helping someone on the side of the road or helping someone with their homework. Whatever it is, you all have something to offer somebody. And you can do that every single day. The second thing is serve when no one is watching. The difference between these two groups of people in the Bible is, ironically, the religious ones only helped people out when everyone was looking, because they were doing it just to get attention. They were just playing the game, the church game, and then behind the scenes, they were selfish. They didn't care about anybody else. They only wanted to serve themselves. So serve when no one is watching. The third one is this, which I know can be hard. Serve your family. Start now. Our parents or our guardians or our grandparents, our aunts and uncles are the ones that are just giving their time and attention to us. And sometimes we can act like it's never enough and they're always doing everything wrong. But man, what would it look like if you actually served and loved them? Because they're your neighbor too. Serve your classmates. Guys, serve your church family. I don't want to see a hand lifted when I ask the question, hey, how many of you don't have anyone that would be willing to help you out in this room? Guys, we should be people that are just ready to love each other, to serve each other, to give our time and attention and our efforts and our energy to each other, not just in our little cliques and circles, but to look around and say, Jesus, because of the love you've shown me, because you came to serve and not to be served, I want to do that for other people. And so as I close, I want to encourage both sides of the coin. If you're here and you'd say, I just really feel, I'm new to this place, I'm still figuring out my faith, and I just feel like I don't really have people that do that stuff for me. I want you to know that Jesus, God himself, came as a man from heaven, walked this earth humbly, serving everyone around him, giving all of his time and attention to other people. He didn't puff himself up. He didn't show off. He wasn't on earth for the money, for the accolades. He only came to heal, to restore, to give hope, to cry with people, to encourage people, to hug people, to heal people, to save people. And then what he did for all of us is say, I only came to this earth to show people how much I love them, how much I want to serve them, and then I'm going to give my entire life for them. I'm going to die, be crucified for them, so that they can one day be with me again for eternity, so that they can have the hope in their heart, so that they can have love in their heart, so they know that even if this world has nothing to offer them, that I am with them. And so if you don't feel like you have anybody in your corner, know that Jesus that we just read about in this Bible is alive today, and he wants to have a relationship with you right now. Right now. You don't have to be holding a microphone up here to have a relationship with Jesus. You don't have to know everything about the Bible to have a relationship with Jesus. All you have to do is ask him. Just ask him. Jesus, I want a relationship with you. I want you in my corner. I need you. And then if you're here and you'd say, I know Jesus, I've been doing this Christian thing for a while, I want to encourage you. Who in your life can you serve? Are you spending time with Jesus every day so that he gives you the ability and the strength to be able to look and serve others? Because if your needs aren't met in Jesus, there's no way you're going to have what it takes to serve other people. And a lot of times, the Christians that are tired, that are worn out, that are feeling selfish, that don't want to give their time, their resources, their attention, those are the ones that maybe haven't spent good time with Jesus in a while. Because he will give you everything you need to serve others. Everything. All you need to do is ask him. So whether you don't know him and you need him, ask him. And if you know him and you're like, man, I need what it takes to love others well, ask him. And I want to pray that over you tonight as we close, because I know this room, you guys, not us as leaders, you guys in this room can be known for your love for each other, for having each other's backs, for serving each other, for serving the people at your schools. And let me tell you, again, you cannot do it in your own strength. You have to ask Jesus for it. The religious people we read about, the religious people that were hypocrites in this story, they checked all the spiritual boxes. They knew this book. They knew it, word for word, line by line. They knew the Old Testament, line by line, every single word of it. They were at the temple every single day. They gave money every single week. But yet, they were so disconnected from their relationship with God that they did not have his heart to love other people. And they probably didn't realize how much God really loved them. So could we be people that are so captivated by the love of Jesus that we serve wholeheartedly people around us?